morning to the UK and good afternoon Kazakhstan. I hope you all are doing well and taking all preventive actions against COVID-19. So today we've got the final session of a webinar series organized by Kazakhstan PhD Association in the UK. I'm joined by representatives of the University of Montfort and the University of Dundee. I'm going to start today's session. I'm Daniyar Medetov, who will be moderating this session today. I'm a project lead of Creative Spark Higher Education Enterprise Program by British Council, the partnership of the University of Northampton and AlmaU Management University. The project is with a focus on fashion and light industry development in Kazakhstan and emerging countries. PhD researcher at Henley Business School, University of Reading, and senior lecturer in entrepreneurship at AlmaU. We welcome all to join the webinar as the topic our colleagues will be discussing and presenting good information is fashion, textile, and product design. I think that the topic is more than actual these days, as it really covers the huge, I would say, large ecosystem of industry, university, and government. Let me share with the outline of this session today. We've got 5 presenters on different topics. Each presenter will have 10 minutes to present. After the final presenter finishes the performance, we'll continue by discussion session where we've already got questions from our viewers and listeners who are interested in fashion, textile, and product. Right. Let me remind you that the whole session will be recorded, and we'll start answering the questions again after all presenters finish. Okay. So let me present the first performer this webinar, who is Professor Jinsong. In textile chemistry and biotechnology at the School of Fashion and Textiles, head of textile engineering and materials research group at Montfort University. Professor holds a BSc and MSc degrees in textile chemistry from Dundee University and a PhD in protein chemistry from the University of Leeds. And while at the University of Leeds, Professor conducted the fundamental research to understand the protein structure of wool fabric. But apart from that, I would like to mention that Professor has been involved in a number of international and national research projects, including the UK TSB, LPTSM, and projects. There's some European Union projects. He has coordinated 2 large European Union collaborative projects in the research of bioengineering, use enzymes for specific activities, for exciting opportunities for development of functional materials. I'm pretty much impressed. I don't know what about our listeners. Professor, the floor is yours. Please, we shall start. Yeah.
Okay. Shall I start?
Yes, please.
Right, good morning. Thanks for joining webinar today. Shall I share my screen with you so you're able to see my PowerPoint of presentation? Right, my name is Jinsong Shen from Montfort University. DMU is located in the city of Leicester, you can see in the middle of England. It's quite easy and convenient to access different places in UK. And if you go to North, Leeds, Manchester, West to Birmingham, and South to London. So at DMU, we have School of Fashion and Textiles based in this very modern Vijay Patel building with all the leading facilities for art and design. In this complex building, we have 25 industry standard workshops for visual arts, design, and architecture. So all the design disciplines under one roof. So at our school, we have long-established textile engineering and material research group we call TEAM. TEAM has extensively involved in the research and development of sustainable or environmental friendly textile processes and sustainable textile materials. Here I list some of current our research activities. One of our major research activity is biotechnology for textile coloration. So I will talk a bit more on enzyme catalyzed coloration later on. Another is a laser technology for textile surface coloration and patterning. We have been working on sustainable textile materials for many years. For example, cottonization of flax, hemp, nettle fibers. We have involved in the European Cost Action Project, in which we develop green antimicrobial finishing, anti-mosquito repellents based on the natural essential oil and the microencapsulations. We also collaborate with other universities to develop wearable technology for smarter textiles with sensing abilities. Another innovative technique we are working on is electroforming for metallized embellishment on textiles. So to create very unique metallized surface pattern on fabric. Now I'm talking about further on enzyme-based coloration for textiles. I think we know textile wet processing, including scouring, washing, bleaching, dyeing, printing, and finishing, consume huge amount of water energy and use a lot of harmful chemicals, causing quite a lot of environmental problems. So we are developing bioprocess using enzymes to replace old harmful chemicals to improve textile sustainability. So why we use the enzyme? Because enzymes are protein which catalyze specific chemical reactions. That's why they know as biocatalyst. So we have quite a lot of benefit if we use the enzyme in the textile processing, because enzymes are biodegradable and reusable. They operating under very mild conditions, especially at a low temperature. That can save quite a lot of energy. So we are developing sustainable enzyme-based coloration process for textiles, rather than using traditional synthetic dyes of chemical accessories in the coloration of textiles. So that gives a benefit of energy saving as well as reduction of effluent waste. The two enzymes we use in this research are lactase and peroxidase. Both enzymes actually is from enzyme group of oxidoreductase. So this enzyme able to catalyze oxidation reduction of variety of substrate we call precursors to generate intermediate radicals. That radical is a very reactive, can be further polymerized to form color. So that color can use for dye textiles. So this is for example, for the garlic acid we use as a precursor. So this simple garlic acid can be oxidized by lactase enzyme to form the radical compound. This very reactive can be further polymerized into polymeric current. If we put a textile material in the enzyme correlations, for example, wool, they can react with polymeric current to forming covalent bonding through amino group from the fiber. So that results into very good color fastness to wash. So we're able to generate a range of the color by enzyme catalysis of different precursors, then to use for dye fabric. So I'm showing here on nylon and wool fabric. This is quite interesting. We found if the enzyme correlation or enzyme treatment is carried out at a different pH 3 to 11, using different buffer systems on wool and nylon, you can see we can create different color from yellow to green to blue, from the acid condition changing to alkaline conditions. So this is quite different to conventional textile dyeing process. In textile dyeing process, if we want to achieve different color, we have to using different dye stuff to get this color. But in the enzyme correlation we only base on single precursors, but we control different pH at a very low temperature. We can create different color on fabric. So on the wool, quite strong color. On nylon, quite bright color. This is just to show you the pattern we achieve by enzyme correlations. If we use a jacquard to weave into woven fabric with mixed yarns of wool, nylon, and polyester, then after enzyme correlations, we're able to create different color if we use a different pH for enzyme correlations. So this is for nylon, very bright color, and this is for wool. But if you got wool and nylon blended fabric, you can see this after correlations that create jacquard weaving pattern, because that's a differential color on wool, quite strong color, on nylon, quite bright color. So that's after enzyme correlation, that pattern appeared. This is another enzyme, peroxidase. It's also from enzyme group oxidoreductase. You can see we can create a range of the color on fabric. This enzyme process actually carried out at a room temperature 30 to 40 degrees. So save quite a lot of energy when we compare with traditional dyeing process at 100 degrees. One of my PhD students using combination of enzyme correlation and dyeing technique to create this pattern. Now I'm talk about laser technology we are working on. Laser is developing very rapidly in recent years in textile manufacturing, especially for fading treatment for denim finishing. So if you look at here, we can control laser energy to remove surface color from indigo dyed jeans fabric to have faded color or patterns. It's quite a faster process. So this is an eco-friendly economic process, because without using any chemical, any water, it's a dry process. And it's an automatic process. You can achieve any digital design. So from the project, collaborative project between DMU and Loughborough University, we use the laser to achieve fading and whitening effect on loom state linen fabrics. So if we look at loom state linen fabric, they actually quite brownish color, So this unlasered area remaining initial brown color. But for the area, laser area, able to remove surface impurity and the coloring matters, so have a whitening effect. So that's a dry process able to create very natural organic pattern on linen fabric. We also apply laser technology on wool fabric. We can control energy, just modify surface of wool fabric, so to improve the dyeability of the fabric. So after enzyme coloration, you're able to show the laser pattern, which is created for new design on the fabric. We also work on freeze fabric, or the fabric have a brushed fibers on the surface. So use a laser to remove surface fiber to create that 3D effect or 3D patterns on the fabric. This is a laser-based dyeing technique we call peri-dyeing. This we developed from our project. It's a direct dyeing by laser to create surface patternings without using printing screen, printing paste, no steam required. It's a very fast process, can create surface patterning. The benefit you can also see from this picture, there's a very fine line you can achieve by laser peri-dyeing. This is not able to achieve by conventional screen printing. So that's the pattern, give you very fine definitions, and you can dye any pattern you design on the computer. So it's a very fast, short process. So finally, I show you the laser we use as a molding effect. So if we apply laser on the fabric as a heat setting, so if we use the elastic stretch fabric, then we stretch the fabric under tension, then we laser the area. Then after laser finish, we'll release the tension, relax the fabric, so we can have this kind of surface patterns, 3D molding pattern, but without using physical pattern molds. So that's the very quick and to achieve any design effect. Okay, I just stop here because we got limited time. I just show you a couple of our current research. I will be very happy to answer any questions afterwards. Okay, back to you, Chairman.
Thank you, Professor. I think that was, for me personally, was quite impressive presentation. You know, since I'm more or less interested in entrepreneurship and commercializing different ideas, what I've again learned from your presentation is all the benefits from using the enzymes. Like environment friendly, it's really speeds up the chemical process, it water saving and very efficient. And this is my understanding of the benefits of using enzymes in the textile industry. Thank you so much. We've got our next presenter, who is Claire Adholla. She'll be mainly talking about the degree programs in textile from the University of Dundee. As you perhaps know, the craft and design is a part of creative industry and economy. So, and nowadays, especially in the context of emerging countries, creative economy development is becoming very, very important. So, Claire, are you with us?
Yes, I am. I'm here.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
So the floor is yours. Please welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. And I'd like to say thank you to the previous speaker as well. That was a really fascinating presentation. Let me also share my screen. There we go. So I am here to talk about the textile degree programme at Duncan of Jordanstone, which is part of Dundee University in the city of Dundee in Scotland. So I will take you through an overview of our course structure with a focus on some of our industry connections and projects, and then discuss a little bit about where this leads, both for students and potential for the university and industry themselves. So here we have an overview of our course structure. We have a general first year, and then students get to specialise into a chosen area. So in level 2 of our textile programme, we're focusing on allowing students to really understand the design process through drawing and thinking and technical skills. So it's very kind of foundational at that point. Our level 3 is where we place our outward-facing industry briefs. And in level 4, we have a self-initiated brief. Students are writing their own project and really exploring a concept in depth. We encourage students at this stage to really think about what they want to do when they leave, so that we can help them to create the most relevant and appropriate portfolio for their chosen area. So as I mentioned briefly there, our level 2 is laying the foundation of the textile design process as we believe it to be, and drawing and observation are really crucial to this. So this is a starting point. We're encouraging students to look at the world around them, to interpret their surroundings, and to do this through drawing and mark making. So it's non-prescriptive, it's very much about challenging our students to explore different media and the way that they view the world around them. From there, we also embed technical workshops in different areas. Print and knit are our two main pathways on our programme, so there are workshops in both areas. So here's a little shot of our print room. We'll also have workshops in our dye lab, allowing students to explore coloration of all different types of materials. It's important to note at this point that students also have access to a whole range of other facilities and equipment across the art school, 3D printing, laser cutting, etc. And many of our students choose to use some of those processes in combination with more traditional textile processes. We have a fabulous studio space as well. All of our students have a dedicated workspace, and this allows them to really immerse themselves in their projects and to create really a strong community through their class. And I think this is a really important thing that people carry with them for the rest of their career, is the network that they formed when they were studying. So the World Economic Forum lists these 10 skills as being the most important for the workforce in 2020. So as an art school, obviously creativity, which is high up there at number 3, is fundamental to what we do. But complex problem solving and critical thinking, which come in at number 1 and 2, are inextricably linked with creativity. How we approach problems and utilise our skills to critically question and challenge big picture issues is a creative undertaking. And one of the ways that we aim to develop these skills is to sort of bridge that link between study and the real world with industry, projects and collaborations. This is also a really great way of doing number 5 on this list, which is engaging with others. So level 3 of our programme, as I mentioned earlier, is our outward facing year. We take part in lots of live projects with different partners. We're really keen to nurture relevant and responsible design, so we work with people whose values and ideas align with our own. So this is an example of a project that we worked on last year with Brora, a knitwear company in the UK. We've worked with them for many years, and last year one of our students won their Woolmark competition and had her jumper produced and sold as part of Wool Week. So that was a really great opportunity for this student to get a better understanding of how a product is designed and developed and taken to market. We're very lucky in Dundee to have a new design museum, and that's opened the door for lots of interesting collaborations and student projects too. So our third year textile students have been working on a project for the upcoming Mary Quant exhibition. Again, this is another different type of live project that sees them working with exhibition materials to respond and create something that fits within today's design landscape. So they were looking at themes around sustainability, innovation, and design activism. Some students were really interested in the material aspect of sustainability, and others became quite excited by the idea of activism and how they could use their skills to kind of agitate in the world and try to create some sort of change. Here are a few other companies that we have been working with in recent years, from big global brands like Hallmark, who we work with on an interdisciplinary module to challenge the idea of greetings in the future, to more local companies creating technical textiles. So one very local partner that we have is Hallie Stevenson. They are experts in dyeing and finishing of cotton cloth. They work for big global fashion brands like Barbour. So our third years have been creating prints based on the Hallie Stevenson factory and their heritage and their brand story, to take to trade shows to show how creative this brand is and to kind of put them out there into the world. So obviously we are living in a strange time through this pandemic, and it has been an interesting moment in terms of how the university and industry can kind of work together to address some of these issues. So Hallie Stevenson and the university have been working together to respond to the urgent need for scrubs at our local hospital. So the factory that had been closed down initially was reopened, and within 3 weeks a bespoke colour was dyed and 5,000 scrubs were created. And this has been a really interesting example of how a university, industry and community can kind of work together to create new models for manufacturing, particularly when we've seen how global supply chains have been impacted by the pandemic. So here we have a quote from a graduate who joins us today, Emma Collins. She said, "My tutors encouraged me to make exciting things and to go in directions that I never really thought I would go." And I think some of our industry projects actually facilitate this type of thinking. They're exposing students to all these different avenues that they could go down and to think about textiles in a much broader way. For example, in the next upcoming semester, I'm going to be working on a project with a colleague from Jewellery and the Science Centre in Dundee to create a sensory experience for a new exhibit. Now, I'm assuming that many of the students might not have thought about taking their work in that direction, but after taking part in a project like this, they're going to have had a new experience and really kind of think again about what kind of designer they might like to be in the future. So here we have some of Emma's work from her graduate collection. She was a great example of a student who really took on board all of these opportunities and pushed on further to engage with industry through work placements and internships as well. At the end of our final year, our students go to a graduate showcase in London called New Designers, and that's another really good opportunity for the university and industry to kind of come together, but for our graduates to make connections that will take them out into the world and into the job market. We do very well at this showcase, winning big prizes and gaining really good opportunities for our students to go into the workplace through internships and mentoring schemes and so on. This is Gabe from last year who won the John Lewis Prize at New Designers. So our industry links and projects have a really important role to play in our course alongside our core teaching philosophy to equip our students for life after university. Here you can see students going in different directions, further study at MA and PhD level, collaborations with emerging brands and jobs in the industry. And you can see some of the same logos appearing on this slide because we do have students who end up working for some of these companies that we partner with, which is always a really nice full circle kind of moment. So sorry, that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Claire. We've got, you know, a smooth movement from the specific, and I would say very much scientific performance into more the program description and the benefits that really potential applicants or potential postgraduate students might have from you know, postgraduate and undergraduate programs. We realized through listening to you that you've got clear and strong industry and university collaboration as well as research. So that's really good, Mogul. Thank you. Okay, so we've got our next presenter is Mr. Martin Skelly, art lectures in product design at the University of Dundee, leading modules on the role of prototyping in the creation of physical and objects. The design researcher specializing in creative speculative problems, crafted research objects exploring alternative futures of emerging technologies. He worked with the product research studio at CAD and is currently working on a collaborative project with the Mozilla Foundation Open IoT Studio, a network of for a healthy, responsible approach to the Internet of Things. Wow, that's quite impressive. Martin, the floor is yours. Please, welcome.
Thank you, Daniyar, and good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Thanks very much for the opportunity to share some of my work around research and enterprise. I'm just going to share some slides with you all. So yeah, as Daniyar has introduced, my name is Martin Skelly. I am a researcher at Duncan Jordanstone College of Art and Design, same institution as Claire, our previous speaker. And my talk today will be around product design and specifically the links that our 4-year undergraduate product design course has with industry and some of my learnings around structuring academia industry collaborations over the past few years. So my background is in digital product design, and a lot of my previous work was done within industry. I worked for a creative consultancy called Uniform, and we were a studio of around sort of 50 to 60 people over the years, and we structured a range of projects, both commercial and product design for clients, but also our own experimental sort of research and development projects. And within that side of our work, I got the chance to conduct research with various institutions, which led me to taking a lectureship at Duncan Jordanstone, which is based in Dundee, as Claire has nicely introduced, which is a little town on the northeast coast of Scotland. There's a little shot of the River Tay, to give you a sense of where we are. So my research now focuses around how product design can support new narratives and approaches to the Internet of Things. And this is some shots of experimental prototypes that explore the voice-enabled internet and voice interactions. So much of my work involves making objects that allow people to discuss and tell stories and critique and explore these features, and then putting them in front of both audiences physically through workshops and facilitation, but also in galleries and in sort of public forums where we can get lots of people interacting with these sort of future artifacts and research what that means to people and where these technologies might go. So this is a slide of a project which was exhibited in the Design Museum called Our Friends Electric. And this sort of focus on voice in my own research is also translated into a couple of industry projects. So this is a shot of our 4th year studio in Dundee, some of our previous graduates working away. As I said, it's a 4-year Bachelor of Science undergrad degree. There's a bunch of information on the website, and also a little plug for our online degree show is live right now. So if you're interested in seeing any of our students' work, they're all bravely exhibiting in this digital virtual world that we find ourselves in. So there's some great stuff up there. So I only have 5 to 7 minutes to present today, so I'm not going to talk too much about the course structure, but there's 4 values that we hold really dear in the way that we approach product design: people, design, technology, and place. And we also place a big emphasis in teaching our undergraduate students how to make with their hands and how to be experimental, both in terms of material manufacturing, but also hands-on thinking through making and building objects to think, both digitally and physically, in various workshop spaces. So the 2 projects I wanted to highlight today to introduce this theme of academic and industry collaboration is one that we conducted in 2016 with Microsoft Research Group, and one that was completed in 2018 with the Mozilla Foundation. Both of these projects were structured with level 2 undergraduate students, and they included interaction with visiting industry partners. They both ran for a full semester, which in our system is around 12 weeks, and they were each interdisciplinary. So we deliberately structured combinations of different undergraduate courses, so there was this real feel of between discipline learning. So it was a mixture of product design, digital interaction design students, illustrators, and graphic design students across both projects in different quantities. So the first one I'll talk you through this morning was with Microsoft Research Group. This isn't a brief that we run yearly. This was a sort of one-off invitation that we had to participate in this 2016 Design Expo Challenge. And the focus of the project and the competition was around conversational user interfaces. So speech to text and neural language learning algorithms, which were at the time in 2016 becoming much more popular, much quicker. So Microsoft came up with this brief to challenge upcoming designers to put their spin on what symbiotic human-computer experiences might look like. It was up to the tutors and the students to focus on the sort of near future or very blue sky future. So this was the overall challenge, and I'll just talk you through one student project that responded to this. This video explains Otto.
Hi, I'm Otto.
How are you doing?
So it's a bit of a whistle-stop tour, just due to the time that we have to present today. But as you can see, Otto was a product for children with autism, and it acted as this middle layer translator between vulnerable children and parents, and could really help with sort of abstract communication principles. And it was all created around a specific user and included user evaluations and various prototyping throughout. So we put a big emphasis on the top curriculum around testing and iteration, and also inviting industry partners in to see these working objects in progress and give the students a real sense of that buzz that industry and agency life can bring by seeing how fast things can change. And this team went on to present at the annual Microsoft conference in Seattle. So at the end of the semester, there was some extra weeks built in to allow them to make a more resolved version of the prototype and work that through more and more processes and iterations, and come up with the artifact that you've seen there in the video. So this is just a summary of some of Otto's key features. And on the call today, we also have two alumni from our product design course. One student, Sean Gurvin, who studied the undergraduate and the master's course, and Chris Kulwicki, who studied our undergrad course. So Sean was one of the students who worked on auto, and me and him would be delighted to discuss this further in the Q&A once the 4 presenters have been. But here you can see the students presenting this project to a large audience at this faculty summit. And without going into loads of depth on the process, I did write up a paper exploring sort of best practice for this type of collaboration, particularly at this level and within this teaching curriculum at second year undergraduate. So if anybody would like to discuss this further in the Q&A, I'd be more than happy to. But there are some principles and best practices linked in this process. I'm just checking the time. So I've gone a little over on time, but I'll whiz you through this quite briefly. But I structured this teaching collaboration off the back of the first Microsoft version, and I did a couple of iterations of this type of collaboration over the years. But this was an interesting one. It was with Mozilla, company best known for making the Firefox browser, but they also have the Mozilla Foundation, which focuses on sort of advocacy and internet best practice. So we were working with the Mozilla Foundation on various research projects with Professor John Rogers. So in this teaching collaboration, I was kind of a little bit of the industry advisor and industry mentor, and also a little bit of the tutor, which allowed me to kind of straddle both camps and provided quite an interesting perspective on what both of those stakeholders in these projects gain from the experience. And it was really fascinating knowing the industry partners quite well and inviting them in to work with their students and being part of that discussion thereafter as well. So yeah, it was with the Mozilla Open Internet of Things Studio, and it was specifically another voice-based project around future dialogues. Whose voice will control the future? So we asked, we had 100 students overall taking part in this project. They were split into 17 teams of 5 to 6 people, and we emphasised cross-discipline teamwork on each of them, and we set them this really broad brief, which was to, forecast and extrapolate and have some opinion on where voice interaction is going in the future. And students worked through this 12-week design process and exhibited at the end. So there was big emphasis on this group show. And then we also created this publication so that we could share some of the dissemination a bit wider. So the 17 projects were grouped into 4 themes, and we created this print and online publication, which sums up some of the different student outcomes, which were very varied. And that document is also linked here if anyone wants to read further. So that is a very rapid overview of 2 fairly long projects, both 12 weeks. So I probably haven't done them justice in communicating the richness of the student work, but hopefully this serves as a nice, interesting jumping off point for discussion. And as I say, it would be great to get our alumni who are able to join the call today involved in any questions further on. So that is all from me. My contact details are here if anybody wishes to follow up after this. So thank you very much, Daniyar. That's everything from me.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you. I've got a personal touch, to the Internet of Things. As I run my own startup in Reading, well, and we might talk about it just a bit later. I think it was a fantastic presentation. Again, a good combination of value proposition and I like when you mentioned the importance of validation and testing of prototypes and ready projects. Right. Okay. Let me invite our next presenter, Dr. Chris Lim. Chris lectures across product design and interaction design at the Duncan of Jordanstone College of Art and Design, University of Dundee. He has a diploma in mechanical engineering from India and Polytechnic, Singapore, and holds a first-class BA in product design engineering and PhD in design from the University of Glasgow and Glasgow School of Art. And prior to his PhD, he worked as a design engineer in the offshore and maritime industry. After his PhD, Chris worked as a research lead and designer at design consultancy Nomad RDC, working with various collaborators, includes Petra, PageOrg, and Wisconsin. The floor is yours. Please welcome.
Great, thank you very much. Hopefully the technology works. It's been quite an eventful morning, so I wasn't being involved in the testing earlier, and I managed to get in just a couple of minutes ago. Well, anyway, without further ado, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share my experience in academia industry collaboration. Well, the context of this collaboration is really centered around the product design master course, in which I run a module on, which has a focus on human-centered design. And why this is important is because when we realize that one of the reasons new products fail in the market, which is as high as 95%, is because companies fail to understand consumer needs and wants. So just to give you a bit of context, social digital is the name we give ourselves, and Martin leads the undergraduate course for product design. And then we also have a postgraduate kind of arm to social digital. And product design is the one I'm going to talk today, but there's two other postgraduate programs, design for business and design for healthcare, which is due to launch next year, 2021. So the program director for product design is Mr. Fraser Bruce. Unfortunately, he can't be presenting this morning, so I was asked to present on his behalf. And if you would like to know more about the program, please do contact him, and his email address is on this slide. So the Masters in Product Design program was designed to equip students with an ideal platform for entering the fast and exciting world of creative technology and design. The approach that we use is simple. We work collaboratively with digital technologies through playful thinking and making. So this innovative approach is in line with changes taking place locally and globally, from the hacking and making cultures of major cities like Bangalore in India to the emerging technology-led social hubs of Stockholm in Sweden. So our program ethos aims to provide students with new perspectives and frameworks around problem solving, user research, design thinking, and making. And it's great that Claire's slide, listed some of the skills that are important in industry from the World Economic Forum. So in our program, we introduce them to some of the tools for embedding cutting-edge technology into products, as well as using a variety of design-led methods to keep people central to the design process at all times. And we make this relevant for students to apply these skills and knowledge through industry involvement, as well as aligning it with staff's research interests. So this not just happens in postgraduate, but in undergraduate as well, as what Martin has presented to you earlier has shown. Teamwork is an important part of the program. So students will be working independently, as well as in small interdisciplinary teams on a number of live projects. And we like to encourage an entrepreneurial spirit, open and curious, and one where one is willing to take the risk. So these are some of the students' work that have been done in collaboration with industry or with staff research interests. So it ranges from exploring spirituality and digital technologies through material and digital technology, to things around IoT and privacy, etc. So these are some of the industry partnerships that we are involved in. So not just locally, but nationally and internationally as well, across the globe. So where possible, we aim to provide a sort of experiential learning opportunity through and with industry partners. And slide that Martin showed earlier, where we get students involved in doing research, engaging with users, is very much fundamental to the experience. So some of the industry people that we've worked with, so the Mozilla, NCR, which is a local company or global company that makes ATM machines, and even NASA. So I'll give you sort of two examples. So this is done in collaboration with a leading retailer of greeting cards and products in the UK, Tiger Print, who designs and produce greeting cards and gifts for Marks and Spencer. So in collaboration with them, we ran a hackathon with over 195 students over 5 days to reconceptualize new digital products for the firm's existing products range and markets. So alongside the hackathon, master students as well as undergraduate students facilitated sessions and gathered data using methods like fly on the wall, interview, and graffiti wall techniques on the experience. They then wrote their first conference paper and presented it at the International Conference on Product Design. We also work with charities, not just commercial entities, and this is a project that I've collaborated with versus arthritis, and it's one of the it's the biggest charity in the UK currently, and these are some of the products that students have produced in collaboration with the charity. So these are some of the students that I've supervised. So this is a towel rail that is for use in someone's bathroom. And if you look at sort of some of the mobility products designed for the aging population or people with disability, you will agree with me that they are all very ugly. So this is trying to encourage companies and people to look at disability and the products for people who are aging differently. This is a set of stationery for people with arthritic hands or fingers. So again, all these products have got great potential in terms of commercialization, and we are working with versus arthritis to see how we can bring it further along that path. So we have a fantastic Center for Entrepreneurship, which is located in the university, and it's Scotland's first on-campus facility. And staff there really engages and equip our students with highly transferable entrepreneurial skills, with startup and spin-up advice. They provide training and organizes competitions and awards, inviting sort of angels, business angels, investors to listen to students pitch and try to develop their business proposal, etc. So a lot of our master students have been involved in the Center for Entrepreneurship in the past as well as presently. So these are some of the outcomes. We have Philip Schofield, who he's the creator of AKURA watches, and he was part of the master's product design master's program. And then he went on to be a designer in residence in the art school. So he received funding, training, and support from the Center of Entrepreneurship, took part in venture competition, Entrepreneurship Week and master classes that was organized by the center, and he launched a successful Kickstarter campaign. And we have Jack Chalkley as well, who attended the master's course, and he went on to become a leading expert in the area of creative technology for several companies in London, and is now the co-founder of Analog Motion, which is the online retailer for lightweight electric bicycles. So we also have students who've gone on to doing, sort of a research kind of career path. So we have Katie Brown, who was a former jeweler, designer, and maker, and she's now completing her doctoral studies exploring the design of hearing aids, which is a subject that she explored as well during her time in the master's. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity just to share some of our experience with you. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Thank you so much. Another example of good link of the Center for Entrepreneurship around the university, at the same time helping students to really commercialize their products through the creative thinking and design thinking. And I think it's really beneficial having such centers where not only students but also are able to benefit from. Okay, thank you. Well, we've got our next presenter, is Professor Marion Modeen. She is an artist and academic whose research links creative practice with interdisciplinary academic studies in the humanities, particularly philosophy, literature, feminist and indigenous studies. Her research has several threads, such as the cognitive and interpretive process and case-based research, which tends to connect cultural values, history, and embodied experience. Modeen's research links creative practice with interdisciplinary academic studies in the humanities. As I said, with philosophy. The floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here all over the world, so I'm really, really grateful to be here. I'm following on with just a couple of minutes from my colleagues, Claire, Martin, and Chris, just to put on the horizon that beyond the undergraduate programs that they've discussed and beyond the masters, that we actually have two different types of doctoral level study. So I'm just very briefly going to go over these, and then I'm going to hand back again, because we've had an opportunity to speak at length about many of the design programs in textiles and product design. So we have a practice-based PhD. In fact, we are one of the very first in the world to start to offer these. We've been offering for the past 2 decades practice-based PhDs that combine creative practice, the doing element, along with the kind of textual submission that would be including context, description, and analysis. In this combination of skills, we try to suit every researcher, every doctoral researcher, at his or her optimal balance or proportion of text to practice. And so this is a variable kind of percentage. It's not cast in stone, it's negotiable. So we have, for example, I was showing that there might be 20% textual submission and 80% practice, or a kind of half and half situation, or even a primarily textual submission that is quite analytical, quite theoretical, perhaps quite descriptive of particular practices, but that have some element of practice involved, maybe in terms of illustration or documenting a particular type of technique, for example. This is 3 years of full-time study beyond the master's. We currently have about 50 PhD students in our school. So it's quite a large community and a very important community inside the overall scope of what's on offer in the school, because In fact, these key researchers are combining cutting edge research along with learning and teaching, because we offer the experience of teaching for many of these students. We also have another option for PhD. This is quite recent. It's a professional doctorate in art and design. And in this program, it's a 4-year program. It's aimed at those people for whom a kind of study in one's own practice makes the most sense. In other words, it's becoming more professional in one's chosen field. So to start with, it's a January to January academic year. So our intake is always for a January start. We have the same cohort that stays together for all 4 years. So that's really reassuring, because it means that a peer group who might be part of, for example, a whole range of different kinds of subjects in law, in medicine, in business, in art and design, in humanities, engineering, all of these students stay together for that same cohort. It's blended learning, so it means that it's fairly low residency. It's 2 6-day periods intensively taught on campus, but the rest of it is done through online contact and through communications like we're doing right now. And also on the job, because it builds on one's own current profession as a way of looking. One has a supervisor and participates in taught modules, but gradually over the 4 years moves more and more from the taught modules into individual investigation on one's job. So it may suit, for example, designers who are in a practice, or small business owners, people who are editors or working for agencies, people who are in some form of work experience where there's an ability to look at that kind of work as the sort of laboratory for learning and investigation, with the aim and result that at the end of the 4 years, one achieves a professional doctorate in art and design, where one becomes much more professional in the way that they conduct business and the way they understand this in a worldwide context. And so that's it. That's all I wanted to add to the range of presentations I've already heard about Duncan of Jordanstone, University of Dundee. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Professor. It's quite exciting, and I think what I call reps of creative clusters not only are really able to enhance their existing knowledge, those who really want to dive into this topic of interest, especially those range of lists that you have, be very beneficial. Okay, so well, let me say we're done with the presentations. So now let's move on. So we've got a couple of questions. I would say individually addressed to our presenters. And if you're okay with this, I will start from the question number 1. So does the pattern and color of textile of wool is affected by the wool types in this commercial project? I mean, I think the question was addressed to Professor Shen.
Yes, we work on wool, but I think the performance is not affected by type of the wool, so it works all kind of wool fibers. It's not commercial project. It's funded by Research Council. It's collaborative between DMU and the Loughborough University, supported by industry partners. So we got Speedo and Camilla Fabrics. On the laser project, we also extra Crystal Martin, Stretchline, and also some of design companies. So it's supported by industry partner, but it's not commercial project.
Okay, thank you. Well, we've got question number 2. Oh, okay. Well, this one is addressed to me. That I mentioned about the Creative Sparks program. Do you have info if the application process starts this year? Are there any training organized or this new feature? Well, just I will be very brief, saying that there is no application and opportunities for the Creative Spark program this year, and we'll definitely run trainings and masterclasses as we've done this year. So we will let you know further and send information about future projects. Thank you. Right. I think the question number 3 is addressed to Claire. It is about employability stuff. I'm interested if you conducted research on the effects of color and design of industry plants on the workability of stuff, or I'm wrong. This might be addressed to Martin. I mean, it doesn't really matter who replies, but it's more like if the question is specific to the presenter. Yeah, Martin.
I can attempt to unpick it. I wondered when it's phrased industry plants, was your impression that was like sort of factories, workplaces, facilities, rather than like plant machinery in industry? I'm just throwing that out for discussion. I haven't actually personally researched that. I'm not sure if Claire has, but I thought I would just chip in with some discussion around it. No, not something I've covered personally.
Myself, neither, Martin. I think the effects of colour on our kind of well-being and workability are interesting topics, but not something that I have anything really that I can add to at this point.
Okay.
I'll probably put some comments on that questions. We're developing the new technology for color or design. I think that, you know, the new innovative technology, how to commercialize it depending on the facilities, the equipment. For example, we're developing laser technology for apply on textiles. So it depending on the laser facilities equipment. When we talk about using enzyme to create color, but of course the staff probably need to train to understanding the enzyme we use, have a basic knowledge of enzyme and how they operate. So that's the my some comments on that.
Thank you.
It was just, I mean, this is more directed to the attendee who was asking if about research and, you know, the effect of colors and design of, I guess, workplaces. There are research being conducted if they are interested to find out. For example, DEGW, they have research papers around the design of workplaces. I believe color would be one of them. You know, Philips is another good one. Philips lighting. They would have research papers or, you know, or papers around how lighting affects and color. You know, color spectrum would affect people's kind of moods and behavior. And I was just talking to a student the other day that certain cities have incorporated color spectrums into street lighting, for instance. So, you know, if they detect, you know, some unrest or some issue, you know, along the streets, they can actually change the color of the street lighting to give a very different atmosphere with the goal of trying to change people's behavior. So there is research out there, and it might be worthwhile, you know, having a look up. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to point one more question in the question and answer chart. Chris, I think you've already answered, but perhaps your colleagues might expand more. Like, do international students have the same internship opportunities as locals? Yeah, that's a very actual question all the time.
If I could start
Yes.
the conversation, yeah. It's a good question. Most of the students who come to us are coming on a Tier 4 visa, which means that they're allowed to work up to 20 hours a week on this type of visa. So that's wonderful, because what it means is that just like UK students, in the combination of study and work and socializing, that there's also an opportunity to take on a degree of part-time employment. Often, the people within the school can help to steer international students towards particular types of opportunities. And occasionally there are projects that come along that their tutors can help with as well. So that's one part of that formula. Another part is that the period just following graduation is another period when it's possible for the students to stay on for a little while and to take part in further employment, perhaps through their kind of areas of study, and to apply that. Currently, set past the point of graduation, but there is an indication by the UK government that this in fact will be extended to a 2-year period. Hope that helps.
Yeah, that was quite useful. Thank you. Right, so this is not a question, it's more call to action, or for action. Hello, I'm CEO of Silk Road Fashion in London, promoting in the UK designers and designs from the countries of the Silk Road, who pay a lot of attention to ethical and sustainable fashion. Thanks to the organizers and the speakers for such interesting and useful webinar. We'll be very much interested in collaboration in future, and we'll be happy to invite all of you to our future events. The lady, Alma Farmer, she lives in London, and she joined us via Facebook. If anyone who's attending this session, please let us know if you've got any ideas to collaborate with Alma. Okay. We've got 4 more questions. I would say 5 more questions, and very much business related, I would say. I mean, the first one, how much does it cost to set up a textile and fashion studio? Return on investment, what types of facility it should include? Okay. Do we have any stat data on this, like some standardized stuff? Like, how much does it cost to set up a textile fashion studio? Interesting. I mean, and what types of facility it should include?
I would say that's obviously quite a broad and open question, and fashion and textiles are a huge area, and this could be spanning any type of textile material and any type of fashion. But I think what's interesting from our graduates is that we see people starting very small startup businesses with very limited amounts of equipment, and growing and building from there. And I think in today's world with the internet and Instagram, that you can actually start with a lot less than you needed before. You can think about new business models in terms of made to order or micro batch manufacturing. So I think that the opportunities are now there for us to start with a lot less, and not to feel that you need X, Y, and Z before you start. Obviously, if you're going to be making clothes, or you're going to be using knitted fabric or woven fabric, you might need a few bits of kit, sewing machines, knitting machines, etc. But some of that stuff can be outsourced. So I think that, yeah, now more than ever, we can get off the ground with a lot less.
Right. Thank you. That's a good question. In regards to the definition of product design, can you please give a clearer definition of product design? Right, and do you have a Russian-speaking faculty at your universities? I think we've got the answer during the presentation, but we might repeat it again. Do you work with industry, extractive, and specifically in which area of product design you specialize? I think that might be a question to all of you who are really, as regards to the definition, maybe Martin or Chris, you might clearer definition of, and then we'll focus on other questions like about faculty and Russian.
How long do we have for the clear definition? I'm just kidding. I think it's a very relevant topic, and it kind of depends where your topic is in product design now, as opposed to like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, is a very, very divergent field. You know, more and more job adverts that I see for product designers are talking about digital product designers. Product design also is on this sweeping scale of industrial design and craft. So what I will do instead of trying to define broadly what product design is, I'll maybe talk about what we see product design as, or certainly how we equip our students to fulfill what we see as product design. So we don't spend, or we don't emphasize lots on like industrial engineering. We focus much more on like the design of one-off working prototypes. So we equip our students to have enough skills to make, to have knowledge of manufacturing, have knowledge of industry, but to be much more focused on the people side of product design. And we sort of straddle the craft area of that discipline by doing more making and trying to encourage people to make first. So no, I can't really define it in its broadest sense, but that was an attempt. Do you want me to speak to the other aspects, Chris, or does anybody else want to chip in here, and then we can talk more specifically to the other aspects of the question?
Hi, everyone hear me?
Oh,
Perfect.
hello. Hi, Chris.
Hello, how you doing? Nice, thanks for being here. Yeah, I think what could be quite good, I can just kind of give everyone a general overview of my experience through product design throughout the use of Dundee Uni, because it is a very, as Martin said, it's a very loose term. You know, product design is merely a word for you can't to not describe this. So, I found with product design on the course, it's a lot of it has been developing you as you said, like an entrepreneur or a collaborative person. So throughout my years, I've found it really important developing skills, communicating with other disciplines like graphics, illustrate, other disciplines in the university. And it has really developed my skills in being able to, talk to different aspects of the design industry. And, along with developing all these physical skills, I've also developed a lot of digital skills, because with social digital, it's collaboration between a primarily digital focused course and a primarily traditional course. And the collaboration of both of them together really was an effective way of learning quite a broad range of skills.
Thank you. That was good. Even if that was your, as you said, your own determination of a design. I mean, that really has good baseline of oriented stuff. Right. Do you have Russian-speaking faculty in Dundee? Interesting. Russian. You have Russian-speaking faculty?
No, specifically within the field of product design, we don't. There may well be some courses that have a sort of aspect of Russian language in them, but I'm not aware of any personally.
Right. Do you work on research areas related to engineering and digital technology in textile fashion? Right. So you've mentioned the Internet of Things, and you've presented a couple of projects that students created and designed. Are there any research-related projects with a note of engineering and digital technology that particularly in textile and fashion. Perhaps Professor Shen, you might have some ideas. And I know that we've mentioned a couple of research projects you personally work for. Here, I mean, I didn't clearly get the question, but are there any research related projects with a note of engineering and digital technology, specifically in textile and fashion?
I mean, there are a branch of textile called e-textiles, which is using things like conductive yarn, embedding electronic components into textiles or fabric. So one of my PhD students is working on e-textiles, but in the context of enabling sort of social connectedness. So one of her sort of prototypes was embedding audio qualities or audio functionality into quilt, so using well, e-textiles, thereby giving not just the textual and the visual kind of stimulus, but also the audio stimulus to encourage people to share stories, etc. So so I don't know whether that answered the question.
Yeah, thank you. I think anyway, there's just there might be part of digital technology in those products and prototypes that your students really create during the course or the entrepreneurship project. And I think that you might just put the link to the website of the University of Dundee, in particular to your department, so they and invitees, they might really view all of this.
Yeah, I'll put a website. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Right, we've got the last question and we're done. So, how are your research projects applicable to practice? Do they have a commercial value? You know, the commercialization of research, especially in emerging countries, is now again getting its popularity, and especially with this COVID-19, most of the emerging countries, but I think not only emerging but also advanced countries, they really see those gaps we've been having during the last 2 or 3 decades, especially in medicine and health industry. We are really much facing all these challenges. From your point and from your side and from your perspective, do you, maybe you might have some statistical data on how many projects really have commercial value, being commercialized in the market. You've really showed different industry reps and companies, especially in fashion. Some of them were like John Lewis and Sela. I would really ask, what is the perhaps secret sauce of if the commercialization of your project is really in a good level that you can really share with your experience and expertise? What is the secret sauce of maybe positive and good results? Let me say that. Yeah. Because you've shared during your presentations different projects, and some of them were. So Claire cannot hear me. It's only Claire who can clearly hear me, or the rest of you also.
The audio was a little bit choppy. Just occasional syllables were missed. Maybe you could just clarify the question in a couple of lines, Daniyar.
So, well, what is the secret of, if it is a good and positive commercialization of your research projects? You've mentioned a couple of companies that you work for and you work with in collaboration, which means that, and one of them was about a research project with, if I'm not mistaken, Mozilla. So what would you advise to maybe other universities or industry experts? What would be the secret from your side to get
Gotcha.
to commercialize the research project? Yeah, it's quite a challenging thing, you know.
Yeah, maybe I could respond a little to that, and then others might have something they could chip in on as well. Because I'll be honest and say that I think the commercialization aspect I haven't solved yet. I think there's much more to do in that space for, you know, both design in general, but also like my niche of product design. Most of my work is looking at sort of speculative critical objects. So I think what it's really valuable at doing is exchanging knowledge and exchanging best practice. And I think the industry partners that I have collaborated with for this type of project that I'm running don't really view it as commercial in the sense of like profit generating, but they see it as like a worthwhile either talent exchange or knowledge exchange, or I think sometimes there's an aspect of just staff enrichment. You know, sometimes these companies might send people to this completely new audience who are thinking in different terms, and sometimes the joy that I see in working with undergraduate students particularly is they don't have commercial constraints and commercial barriers in their head. They can just approach problems with a very fresh perspective. So I think commercialization in a sort of spin-off, sort of profit-generating academic research, I am not at a point in my career where I have much knowledge of that, but maybe some others do. But I certainly see them as very like profitable in other ways, as in getting our students in front of industry partners, giving them that real first-hand experience of talking with industry, and then from an industry perspective, having access to talent, shaping ideas, agendas, manifestos, and just understanding, you know, what that next wave of designers' values are and what they're focused on. So that's certainly where my head's at on that question, but I'm sure some others might have some interesting responses.
Yes, and Mary mentioned again the Center for Entrepreneurship at the university. Really, would you like to expand it more, Mary?
Sure. Yeah. So the university has a Center for Entrepreneurship, which provides a degree of support and awareness and promotion for students who are working on projects that where they demonstrate a degree of entrepreneurship or applied applications in business and development skills. Even beyond that, for our doctoral level researchers and for academics, the university also has an Office of Research and Innovation. And what they do is that they provide training in the first sense, but also beyond that, provide support for an application of research into a kind of business model. So they help support the initiation of businesses as what we call spin-off companies that are developed from the kind of basis of research. The university has a vested interest in this because, like most universities, they really want to promote the kinds of impact that the research has in wider applications.
Thanks.
I mean, when you talk about secrets of successful commercialization, I think yeah, if there is one, I would like to know it.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I haven't. Well, I mean, I've got sort of tangential experience. One was related to my research, and the other one was sort of being kind of a bystander to a friend's commercialization experience. which I was helping him do bits and bobs. But I think, you know, finding the right partners is really, really important. For him, I mean, for my friends, sort of experience in terms of commercializing his research, you know, finding the right people is really, really important, right investors. And, you know, I guess it comes from your strategy. So for him, the business angels that was involved does not only provide financial backing to his project, which he needs to convince them to part with their money, but also what other implicit value do they bring to the whole venture. So for example, besides money, what do you want them to help you with? So he doesn't want investors that just, you know, provide monetary or financial what do you call it, to his venture.
Right.
It needs to be something else. So it could be contacts, it could be links to certain things that he might have difficulty in accessing. And obviously, for them, it is a research kind of the commercialization was the result of sort of his business partner's research. So, you know, who can you source in terms of being able to implement, you know, or translating your research to something that is functional. So, you know, the product basically, or the technology that is behind it. Who can you work with in order to, you know, get that to the best quality possible? So again, for them, it's not just you know, a short-term kind of view. It's a long-term view, and obviously lots of hard work. And I guess sometimes luck do plays a part, you know, being at the right place, finding the right people at the right time do play a part as well. And lastly is your exit strategy. So once you've got your startup company, you know, what's your exit strategy? Are you going to do this for the long haul, or are you going to pass this on to somebody else? You know, so that needs to be factored in as well.
Absolutely, thank you. I mean, I've been working with different startups for almost 5 years, and that's different from the context perspective, like Poland, the UK, Kazakhstan, Russia, Uzbekistan, most of the Central Asian countries. And let me say that researchers practically do have the same, maybe the same challenge as those startup people who are not such research oriented. That they're very much into their projects and products, while validation, testing, customer development, client-oriented stuff sometimes really, you know, is missing out. And we do really support not only startup founders, but also those who just would like to become a startup, I don't know, founder or CEO, but at the same time is researcher, strong researcher. So we do really advise to think about the value proposition that might be validated as well as marketed in the industry. Right. I think, well, we're almost done with the questions. I think they were very much kind of versatile in the content. Just let me thank you, all the presenters in the session of Fashion, Textile and Product Design organized by Kazakhstani PhD Association, the UK. Can I just say thank you so much, Alias and Bayeva, for conducting and giving this fantastic opportunity to share. I'm personally really got such different, I'm already, let's say, discovered different opportunities to further develop them. So, and definitely, I hope that listeners and those who will view the webinar will definitely find every session and every presenter interesting, and will discover opportunities as well. Can I just say thank you for the Dundee University representatives, Professor Mary Modeen, Martin Skelly, Chris Lim. Thank you, Claire Adholla, Emma, Sean, Chris, and the University of Montfort, Professor Shen. I think there was a fantastic input in definitely in the fashion and textile and product design aspects. If you have something to say, just please, the floor is yours. We can actually take a quick screenshot if you're okay with that. So, but we have to see your faces. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Good to see you all. Right, I'm print screening now. Great. Screenshot added. Thank you so much. That was lovely to see you all. Keep in touch. Stay safe, please. And yeah, just let's move on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, all
Bye.
speakers.
Yes.
For this.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.